It all started in the fall of 1993 with local news out of Bellefleur, Washington, tying a series of recent disappearances to others that had occurred 4 years prior. All of the missing were classmates, recent high school graduates. No one knew what happened. The local authorities stumped. All leads seemed to lead back to one boy, now in a coma, a witness when the first person had disappeared. His name was Billy Miles. Now, the mystery that began that fall of alien abductions and the active and ongoing government conspiracy to keep it all quiet took over a decade to unravel. It led us across the globe into the highest reaches of government, only gradually revealing the true scope of the cover-up. We, the public, knew these cases collectively as the X-Files. Week after week, we joined agents Fox Mulder and Dana Scully to explore monsters and myths, unsolved mysteries, supernatural phenomena, aliens, and also love and friendship, loss and obsession, sacrifice and consequence, community and loneliness. A search for truth and meaning that was only occasionally responsible. And threaded through like a discordant note, a splinter in the mind, a massive and intricate conspiracy that threatened the human race. I ate this stuff up. I did. I remember that first episode. I was enthralled right from the get-go. What caught me first was in the basement office of the FBI's most unwanted, Agent Mulder had a poster on the wall in his office. A poster I have hanging in my home office at home. One that reads, "I want to believe." And I did. I believed. The truth is out there. For me, this TV show coincided with lots of things. I was young, I was in college, it was my first real relationship. I was just starting to live, to wrestle with life's big questions, to make serious plans about my future, to find my place in the world. And I remembered about a decade earlier, Carl Sagan's TV show Cosmos asked me to look up, to consider a horizon a bit farther than the sunset, to see myself as something more than a boy, but as the universe itself come alive, thinking about itself. But it was all out there, huge and unfathomable, tragically separate and apart. I was never going to go out there. So what the X-Files did was suggest the possibility that the out there might actually come here. And while the menace of that was certainly spine-tingling, there was more. It was an answer to the question that scientists have called the greatest of all time. Are we alone? Are there others somewhere across the vast oceans of space? Do they dream like we do? Do they search for meaning? Do they long for connection? When they look dreamily up at the spinning and winking lights spilling across their night sky, do they ask themselves, are we alone? This would be an excellent time to do our thing. Second service, that's us. I'm going to ask our tech team to bring our remote guests back into the sanctuary. Hello. We're going to ask those of you that are watching, do feel free at this moment. Yes, I can see some of you doing it because you know I'm going to ask you to turn on your cameras. Excellent. Go ahead and switch to gallery view so we can see all of you. And for those of us online and in person, please, in the spirit of our friend, the Reverend Dr. Otis Moss III of Trinity Church here in Chicago, I want you to turn to a neighbor. Any neighbor. I'm looking right at you. I'm looking right at you. Go ahead. Turn to a neighbor. Pick a neighbor. Doesn't matter the neighbor. Someone right next to you will do just fine. Now, through your masks and you're using your indoor voices, I want you to say to your neighbor, neighbor, oh neighbor, the truth is out there. Excellent, well done. Now, as the story goes, it was 1950, and physicist Enrico Fermi, some of you may recognize the name, Fermi was walking to lunch with some colleagues at Los Alamos National Laboratories when he stumped them all with a simple question. Where is everybody? As Neil deGrasse Tyson explains in his book, Cosmic Queries, Fermi and colleagues were chatting about recent UFO sightings in the area. I'll come back to that in a second. But we can guess that Fermi was probably assuming two things. One, that there could be lots of extraterrestrial civilizations out there. And two, it would take one of those civilizations no more than 100,000 years to colonize the entire galaxy. It's just a blink of an eye on the astronomical timescale. For the sake of time, I'm just going to wave my hands here and say that there are good reasons to accept these points on their face. And when we do, we realize that these points lead to some problems. If the galaxy is full of advanced civilizations, where are they? Why haven't they contacted us or shown up on our doorstep? The math says they are there, and that we should at least see some sign somewhere that they're out there. But there's no sign anywhere. For those keeping track, this is the Fermi Paradox. And in a future sermon, we'll explore why this paradox is particularly troubling for our future here on Earth. But today, I want to explore what it means for this month's theme, relationship. As you no doubt recall, last week we were talking about monsters, and I suggested that relationship is a tie that binds, a tension line that connects us one to another. I use the imagery of line drawing, and I suggest that when we draw lines between you and me, between us and them, between our group and their group, between this place and that place, whenever we draw these lines, we do violence. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about what happens when we draw those lines big enough for the entire world. When we come to the edges of all our known maps, where we stare off into the void that lies beyond, looking for answers out there when we can't seem to find them in here. And at the edge where we teeter on the words, "Here be dragons," we know we're tempted to fill in that space fill in our loneliness, our isolation, the blanks between, with fear and darkness. Before we get there, I want to start off with a few hours visiting a few hours south of Los Alamos. And a couple years before Fermi asked his question, I want to go to the Roswell Army Airfield, where in 1947 they issued a press release stating that they had recovered a, quote, flying disc. And they got this from a ranch 30 miles outside of Roswell, New Mexico. A flying disc. Now, this press release, as many of you might know, was followed immediately by a correction. The so-called disc was now identified correctly as, quote, a weather balloon. As most of you can guess, the retraction, true or false, was way too little, way too late. Because the Roswell incident, as it's now known, has become part of our public imagination. And as the years passed, right, the story grew. We have affidavits and eyewitness reports and deathbed confessions leading to books and TV shows and ever more salacious revelations. A larger conspiracy, a second crash site, little gray men, Area 51, mysterious lights in the sky, alien abductions, alien autopsies. And that was just the news. The media's answer for Fermi, apparently, over the years was wide-eyed enthusiasm. Aliens were real, they were here, and they were conducting tests on humans for reasons that were various, nefarious, and largely, apparently, proctological. Hollywood occasionally did a little better. Amongst the deluge we got Star Trek in 1966. Both Star Wars and Close Encounters of the Third Kind came out in 1977. Battlestar Galactica in 1978. Alien in 1979. E.T. the Extraterrestrial in 1982. More Star Wars and more Star Trek movies throughout the 80s. And in 1993, The X-Files. I think a lot of us want to believe. And to some extent, I think most of us do. Following Carl Sagan from the 1997 movie Contact, quote, "The universe is a pretty big place. It's bigger than anything anyone has dreamed of before. So if it's just us, seems like an awful waste of space." So maybe it's not really all that surprising that some of us have taken the invitation to imagine the need for news of the infinite just a bit more seriously than others. Now, did anyone know that there is a vibrant and robust UFO community here in the States? Anyone? So a couple of you? Every year, tens of thousands of people, believers, followers, enthusiasts, they attend dozens of UFO conferences all over the country. To all reports, these cons are a ton of fun. And mixed in with all the costumes and cosplay are symposiums, talks, panel discussions, affinity group gatherings and support groups, presentations, slideshows, and even home movies, book launches, magazines, meetings for local citizen action groups. Some of these are rather breathless, and some are quite serious. And in the spirit of assigning homework, which you all know I am very fond of doing, I suggest field trip. And I want to pause and note, just in passing, that my suggesting that also makes some of us uncomfortable, doesn't it? A little bit. And as we ponder that feeling, I want to suggest we consider two facts. Fact one, until very recently, no one was talking about UFOs. For anyone in any official or public role, whether scientist or scholar or elected official, it was as if all were following the first rule of Fight Club. Don't talk about Fight Club. And here's what's interesting. We all know the reasons for that, don't we? Because it's common knowledge that breaking that rule, at least around UFOs, could lead to being marginalized and quite possibly to being institutionalized. Such people were ostracized. No one took them seriously. That's the first fact. Second fact, More than 6,000 regular people report UFO sightings every year. They're from all demographics and from all across the United States. 6,000 every year. Now, reconciling these two facts, that's where we end up with an insular community. It's not a shock. There are lots of facets to that community, to be sure. But as we've been discussing here at UUSG, we know that finding community and meaningful connection is at least as important as searching for truth and meaning. Perhaps especially when searching for truth and meaning threatens community and connection. That concern, at least for me as a pastor, is when communities of solidarity, like our community here at UUSG, when that slips into something else. When the bonds of community go bad. It's a worry. To quote Agent Scully, the truth is out there, but so are lies. Honestly, I don't know why this person or that one falls into the grip of conspiracy theory like QAnon or the Heaven's Gate cult. Anyone remember them? They believe that the Hale-Bopp comet was an alien spaceship coming to whisk them away to the next phase of human evolution. Rather tragic outcome. Now, perhaps it's because of something to do with childhood alienation, overly authoritative parents, some early trauma. All of these are plausible, and I'm sure all have been advanced as potential markers. But experts tell us that it's not only marginalized people, not only the weak of mind, the vulnerable, the damaged, that get pulled into cults or conspiracies. Quite often, it's regular, educated, intelligent people, people like you and me, if you'll pardon the lack of humility. And at least in the case of UFO conspiracy theories, believers avidly endorse free thinking, individualism, self-reliance, and personal freedom. And also, there's more. For the QAnoners and the UFOologists, at least, there's a bit of an edge there. A bit of mania, a bit of obsessive compulsiveness, maybe a bit of paranoia, a lack of critical thinking, some ignorance of the scientific method and disregard for logic. That's all been very well studied. I want to acknowledge all of that, and I don't want to judge, though it's tempting. What I want us to do instead is see how easy it is for us to make them into a group, a them. Easy to bracket, easy to lump together, easy to dismiss. That's a problem, because they may not be wrong. Anyone ever hear of the Phoenix Lights of 1997? Anybody hear that? You know what I'm going to say, right? Homework! This is a good one. This is a good one to check out. Go Google this at home. Short form. In 1997, there were reports of mysterious lights seen over the city of Phoenix and several other locations across the state. Thousands of people saw these lights and reported them. Thousands of people, including one Fife Simonton, who happened to be the then governor of Arizona. Despite all of the photos, the video footage, the eyewitness testimonies, and all of these official requests from the highest levels of state government, these lights have never been explained. And here's the fun thing. Over the years, there have been many such cases, mysterious cases that remain unexplained. Now, in 2007, Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid helped fund a commission to study and explore some of these unexplained cases. That program, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, was funded and did its work. It was headed by a gentleman named Luis Elizondo. Now, in 2017, after the release of a government report detailing encounters with military personnel, including video footage of U.S. Navy aircraft chasing unidentifiable objects, Elizondo was interviewed by CNN and asked about the results of his agency's efforts. He said, quote, "We found a lot," and quote, "My personal belief is that there is very compelling evidence that we may not be alone." You can find that 2017 story at thenewyorktimes.com under the title, "Glowing Auras and Black Money, the Pentagon's Mysterious UFO Program." It is, to date, the most read New York Times article ever published. And this past summer, our government released another surprising and highly anticipated report on what they call unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs, what UFOs are now called, UAPs. That report, I think it's 9 pages, not long. It's available online. It does include links to documents, videos, testimonies of eyewitnesses, all detailing dozens of experiences and spanning several decades. Experiences by military pilots and other highly trained observers commenting on aircraft that, quote, "demonstrate technological capabilities that are unknown to the United States, objects moving without observable propulsion or with rapid acceleration that is believed to be beyond the capabilities of Russia, China, or other terrestrial nations," end quote. Holy crap. Now, do I believe we are on the cusp of an alien apocalypse? A biblical level revelation? That aliens will soon land in our collective backyard and induct our world into the United Federations of Planets, our 5-year mission to explore new worlds, to boldly go? Honestly, I vastly prefer the Star Trek vision to the alien invasion scenario of the 1996 movie Independence Day, just in case that preference matters to our alien overlords. But threaded through all of the hoaxes and all of the unexplained phenomena and all of the pop culture theatrics, what I wonder, what I hear, is hunger, a very human hunger, that news of the infinite. We want to know, to understand. We need to be part of something more, something larger than ourselves, to belong to a community where we are known, seen, acknowledged, and valued. And that doesn't stop. Not with the lines between you and me, between us and them, between our group and their group, not even between our planet and everything else. We all, on occasion, stand at the edges of our maps, teetering on those words, "Here be dragons," and we wonder about the great dark that lies beyond. We look up, our loneliness an ocean above us and within us, one that can only ever be filled with an answer to the question, are we alone? So this morning, I'm compelled to give Agent Mulder the final word. Quote, "When convention and science offer us no answers, might we not finally turn to the fantastic as a plausibility?" My friends, the truth is out there. Amen, and blessed be. My friends, as we prepare to leave this place, do me a favor. Just continue your journey in love. Care for one another and care for this, our pale blue dot. Do justice and make peace. And as you go, know that whatever taste or touch you've had in this time and place of hope, joy, love, peace, compassion, connection, provocation, that goes with you out into the world. We are different for having spent this time together. So remember, live boldly and with thanksgiving.